Hi, and welcome to today's AgSafe video focused on coronavirus COVID-19 and tips for field employees. This is Amy Wolf, AgSafe President and CEO, and I'm excited to make sure that we can provide for your workers important information on how they stay safe, both at work as well as at home. Some important disclaimer information in particular: understand that this video does not constitute legal advice, but is merely best practices and recommendations that we have gathered from entities including the Center for Disease Control. So the two areas of focus for today's video are tips for taking care of yourself when you're at work, and then additional reminders and tips for taking care of yourself and your family when you return home at the end of each day. We want to cover social distancing. We want to talk about things to keep in mind during your meals and your rest breaks. We want to ensure that you're thinking about transportation, how you're getting to and from work and how you're moving about when you're at work during each day, and then things to keep in mind when you head home after the end of your shift. Social distancing. This is a topic that's come up quite a bit right now in the COVID-19 pandemic. And I want to make sure that everyone understands the Center for Disease Control is recommending is that individuals stay at least 6 feet apart from one another in all circumstances. And that's no different when you're at work, whether you're going to the grocery store or other essential travel that you need to be conducting right now. So keep in mind that this is true before you start work. If you have a tailgate meeting, if you're having a conversation, if you're checking out tools, it should be what you're trying to accomplish when you're actually out in the field, in the vineyard, in the orchard, in the facility packing house, wherever you are. And also that you need to maintain 6 feet of distance during your breaks, as well as when you're taking your lunch. It's also important that you keep in mind that you need to avoid physical contact with others to the greatest extent possible throughout the course of the workday. Because of the disease's potential for transmission, it's very important that we all make every effort possible to ensure that we're keeping at least 6 feet of distance between ourselves. Breaks and meal periods are a time when you really need to be mindful of not only your distance, but additional best practices. I know many of us wash our hands with great frequency before we use the restroom, after we use the restroom, and before we eat as part of our food safety protocol. But I cannot encourage you enough to consider additional times when it's appropriate for you to be washing your hands, particularly if you cough, if you sneeze, and sporadically over the course of the day as well. It's critical though that before you sit down for lunch, before you sit down for a break, even to drink water, that you're making sure that you're washing your hands with soap and water. If you're in a position, because you are out in the field, say for instance after sneezing, to use disinfectant or antibacterial hand sanitizer. We want to make sure we're taking all the necessary precautions to minimize the potential for germs to spread. Under no circumstances should you be sharing food or beverages, even water, with anyone, including with family members. The reason I say not to share with family members is because if others don't know that you and that individual are related and they see you sharing, they may mistake or not understand the situation. And quite frankly, family members are not prohibited from spreading this disease, or honestly any infectious disease, between each other. And so not sharing food and beverages is critical. Do not sit next to one another, again, even during breaks and on your meal periods. Make sure you're maintaining at least 6 feet of difference of space between you and other people. And our guidance to employers has been to make sure that they're providing additional seating, plastic chairs, folding chairs, but other ways that you can sit off the ground and space yourselves further apart. And also think about this when you're having meetings or tailgate discussions, that you're working to make sure that you keep that 6 foot distance between you and other folks. Transportation. This is going to be something that I know many of us don't realize we need to be paying closer attention to, but because the guidance that's been put out by the CDC around how long the virus can stay on surfaces, it's important that you're making sure that you're cleaning and disinfecting your vehicle at least once a day. This is both the inside and the outside of the vehicle. This is true whether it's for yourself or if you're providing rides to others. And I wanted you to think about in particular the surfaces that we come with regular contact in the car: door handles, locks, switches, window switches, the steering wheel, areas where cup holders are located, seat belts and seatbelt connectors. But the fact that there is the potential for the virus to continue to stay, it's important that you're thinking about cleaning and sanitizing both the inside and the outside of your vehicle. The other thing to think about is if you're still driving your car to work each day, and in particular, if you're driving out to the field, a vineyard, or an orchard, I want you to think about maintaining at least an 8-foot buffer, which is another full car length of space between you and the other vehicles around you. This allows you to get out of your car, get things out of the trunk, help other people get out of the car, and still ensure that you've got that 6 feet of space difference between you and folks that are also coming to work. So when you think about it, think that you really need to keep a full car length of distance between you and the other cars around you when you're parking your car when you get to work. Some things I want you to think about when you head home at the end of the day, both how are you going to care for clothing and shoes, and also how are you going to take care of yourself personally? So as we often do, if we have the potential to come in contact with a product that's been sprayed with a pesticide, the protocol here is actually no different. You need to be taking the clothes off, the clothes that you wore to work off as soon as you get home. Ideally, leave them in the garage or a laundry area, but don't go into the house and walk around in the clothes and the shoes that you wore to work. Don't sit down anywhere inside your house. The very first thing you should be doing when coming home is taking those clothes off and keeping them separated from family clothing. You could put that in a separate laundry hamper or even in a separate plastic bag. You also need to think about leaving your shoes that you wore to work outside and cleaning them on a daily basis, and then having a different pair of shoes that you're wearing inside the house. The goal here is to minimize the potential that if you do come home with COVID-19 on your clothing or on your shoes, or again, quite frankly, if you come in contact with a product that's been sprayed with a pesticide or any other infectious disease, that you're minimizing the potential that it's going to enter inside your home. You also want to ensure that you're keeping these clothes and these shoes separate when it comes to cleanliness and cleaning those clothes. Take a shower as soon as you get home and make sure you're putting on clean clothing. We want to ensure that you're maintaining minimal contact with your family until after you've taken a shower. And I would suggest that you use a different towel each day, again, taking those extra precautions to ensure that you're minimizing the potential that the disease can come inside your home. I also can't underscore enough that if you do not feel well, please do not go to work. The signs and symptoms of COVID-19 are a fever over 101 degrees, difficulty breathing, and a dry cough. Now, certainly any one of those symptoms by themselves does not indicate that you have the disease, but a combination of those symptoms, so a difficulty breathing and a dry cough, or running a fever with difficulty breathing or a dry cough, you need to take those symptoms very seriously and contact your medical provider. Seek medical attention immediately. Many doctors' offices are now doing screening over the phone, or you can go directly to the emergency room. But we want you to take any potential for signs and symptoms seriously and act quickly if you're not feeling well. If you're looking for additional information, we recommend going to the Center for Disease Control website at cdc.org. AgSafe has also put together a whole host of resources that you can review that covers things much more in depth at agsafe.org/COVID-19 resources. We encourage questions and hope everyone stays safe and healthy.